Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving headfirst into the 2026 global video game landscape. We're going to break down the world's most popular games right now, what actually makes them tick, and, crucially, exactly what kind of PC or console hardware you need to run them. Because look, whether you're a hardcore competitive player grinding the ranks, or you just want a really chill weekend session on the couch, there's absolutely a perfect match out there for you. Okay, so let's start by asking a pretty important question. What kind of gamer are you in 2026? Are you chasing that massive adrenaline rush? Are you looking for deep, immersive storytelling? Or maybe you just want a fun, relaxed way to connect with your friends? Figuring out your unique player identity is really step one. It helps you understand not just what games you should be playing, but what kind of machine you actually need to power that specific experience. To make sense of the whole shebang, we've organized this explainer into a few key areas. First, we'll look at the high-stakes competitive arenas. Then, we'll transition into vast worlds and RPGs, followed by social and casual play. And finally, we'll wrap things up with a reality check on the actual 2026 hardware requirements. Right, let's jump straight into our first category, high-stakes competitive arenas, where it is all about skill, speed, and survival. We're kicking things off with a persona we call the competitor. These are the folks who absolutely thrive on esports ladders, those hyper-fast-paced matches and incredibly high-skill gameplay. We're talking about situations where quite literally every millisecond counts. In today's dominant 5v5 blockbuster shooters, you need rapid reaction times. They blend incredibly precise gunplay with hero-style abilities, so you're rewarded for both raw aim and smart on-the-fly strategy. If you're this type of player, you live for ranked modes and those big seasonal updates. Now, because tight matchmaking keeps these games so intense, you need modern hardware to keep your frame rates butter smooth. On a PC, you're looking at a modern quad-core CPU, somewhere between 8 to 16 gigabytes of RAM, and a solid mid-range GPU for flawless 1080p performance. Or if you're on a current-gen console, you'll definitely want to use those performance modes designed specifically to push those high frame rates. This also perfectly illustrates the high-risk, high-reward loop of cooperative sci-fi extraction shooters. You know the drill. You and your squad drop into a totally hostile zone, you fight off AI enemies or rival squads, scrape together resources, and then desperately try to escape before the timer runs out. It's class-based, it is incredibly intense, and because you've got so many enemies on screen at the same time, having a strong CPU and frankly good voice communication with your team is absolutely vital to making it out alive. Rounding out this competitive section is, of course, the Battle Royale genre. Dozens of players dropping onto one massive map, you're constantly looting, moving, and trying to adapt to that ever-shrinking safe zone until just one squad survives. It is absolute chaos, especially in those late-game firefights. To keep that chaos fluid, you are going to need both a strong processor and a powerful GPU, ideally paired with a high refresh rate monitor. Now, what's really interesting here is the dramatic shift when we leave all that fast-paced, high-adrenaline stress behind. We're stepping away from that cutthroat, last-man-standing combat and moving into the sprawling, much more immersive pace of our next persona, the Explorer. This is where deep storytelling and long-term character progression takes center stage. So, let's explore a second section, vast worlds and RPGs, focusing on stories, exploration, and progression. If you're the kind of person who wants to spend literally hundreds of hours getting lost in a living, breathing map full of cities and side quests, the role-playing game genre is 100% your home. Whether you're playing a single-player action RPG where your branching story decisions actually change the ending, or you're diving into a massive fantasy multiplayer world, these games just hook you. They offer super deep character progression, customizable skill trees, and huge community features. In the multiplayer space, you're joining massive guild networks, tackling high-end raids, and even jumping into in-game events tied to real-world holidays. It's like having a second virtual life you return to for months or even years. But here's the catch. To truly enjoy these sweeping, highly detailed open worlds and fight those massive raid bosses without your screen freezing up, your hardware needs a bit of muscle. You're going to need a really solid mid-range setup. We're talking at least 16 gigabytes of RAM, a modern GPU to handle all that complex environmental lighting, and a strong CPU. That CPU is especially crucial for handling large group content and keeping your internet connection stable in multiplayer games. For our console players, you'll usually find options here to toggle between a smooth 60 frames per second performance mode or a quality mode that just prioritizes those stunning cinematic visuals. But hey, maybe that intense grind isn't your thing, right? Let's see how we transition from hundreds of hours of complex skill trees and high-end rating to something much, much more relaxed and accessible. Enter our third persona, the socializer. Welcome to Section 3, Social and Casual Play. This is all about creativity, sports, and classic couch co-op. This space is entirely about getting friends together on the couch, kicking a virtual ball around, or just letting your imagination run completely wild without worrying about a shrinking safe zone. Take sandbox building games, for example. They are a massive global phenomenon. Sure, they might look visually simple with their blocky graphics, but they hide an incredibly deep ecosystem. Players of literally all ages can build wild structures, automate giant farms, and explore randomly generated worlds. And thanks to cross-platform play, community servers, and an enormous PC modding community, the creative potential here is just endless. Similarly, we have games that act as perfect social hubs. Think annual football and sports titles, offering everything from realistic player models and real-world team transfers to serious online seasons or just casual local multiplayer. Alongside those, you've got family-friendly platformers on hybrid consoles. These games are fantastic because they thrive on being accessible. Simple controls, super colorful worlds, and satisfying short missions that are just ideal for a quick handheld session or playing alongside your kids on the couch. So, you might be wondering, how many high-end supercomputers do you need to enjoy these social games? Zero. Literally zero. Because these titles are so incredibly well optimized. Their lighter system requirements mean they run flawlessly on older laptops, low-end PCs, and hybrid consoles. It just proves you really don't need a massive rig to have an amazing time gaming with your friends. Okay, so knowing what you want to play is great, but let's get into the nitty-gritty. Section 4, 2026 hardware requirements, and how to actually power your playstyle. This breakdown really synthesizes everything we've just talked about. Your hardware investment basically scales directly with how competitive or visually demanding your favorite genre is. Are you playing high-skill shooters or battle royales? You've got high hardware needs, strong CPUs, GPUs, high refresh monitors. Want those long, sprawling RPG stories? You're sitting in the medium tier, where that 16 gigs of RAM is absolutely key. And if you're just here for social, creative, or family play, your hardware needs are wonderfully low, making those games super accessible on most devices. Ultimately, a standard mid-range PC or a current generation console is going to comfortably handle almost all of these popular titles at a crisp 1080p resolution. But listen, no matter which persona you fall into, you absolutely must ensure you have ample solid-state drive or SSD storage space. Seriously, downloading a modern AAA game today is easily going to take up tens of gigabytes, and an SSD makes sure your games load quickly without any of that annoying hitching. And a golden rule to live by, always check the official minimum and recommended specs before buying a game. So, we've explored the adrenaline-pumping arenas, the massive living RPG worlds, and those endless sandboxes of pure creativity that define the gaming landscape in 2026. Based on the hardware sitting on your desk or in your living room, and the kind of experience you're truly craving right now, it's time to make a choice. Taking all of this in, which world will you step into next, and who will you become when you log in?